What's going on, guys and girls? How you doing today? It's Single Roleplay here once again. Today I want to present you the build that I've been working on for the last actually several months, but I've just been observing things, how they're shaping up. I've been watching different stuff, what people are doing, and as always I've been looking for the absolutely best setup for this skill, which is Tectonic Slam. Now, when Tectonic Slam appeared a long time ago, it was really like one of the most mediocre skills because it consumed 100%, had a chance to consume endurance charge. It also has, you know, mediocre damage, and it was really not better than the Earthquake. But in 3.5, everything had changed. It got a big buff to the more damage multiplier and 35% chance to consume charges instead of 100%. So now it just do not drain you of all charges. At the same time, people still were really skeptical about the build, up to the point where actually Mathiel killed Uber Elder with the Tectonic Slam and kind of proved everyone that Tectonic Slam actually works. You know, it's a great skill. It's like an improved version of Earthquake, and I actually wanted to get back to the skill and you know, find the optimal build that is both very thick, at the same time it should be doing a great amount of damage. So I didn't want to do like super thickness, but you know, sheet damage. I wanted to find an optimal build for everything. Great AoE, great damage, great toughness. This is it. What I like about this specific setup is how flexible it is. At the same time, it has really nice stretch goals for the end game, so they will have something to do as you progress through the league. At the same time, the toughness is absolutely amazing because you're running about 60,000 armor, which prevents 6,000 physical damage, which literally make you like invincible to the most physical damage in the game. At the same time, you were running decent amount of Chaos Res and reduce elemental damage taken because we're doing dual Nebulox, you know, a Wise Oak and all that shit. This is just amazing setup. Another thing that I wanted to incorporate in the build, guys, is I wanted to really like squeeze the most damage possible out of the skill itself without really going down in toughness, in terms of toughness. And I started looking for things like a lot of people doing different things, going, you know, End's Might, going Elemental Overload, but I specifically wanted to stay in the crit area and to do the crit build because I haven't done crit builds in a long time since the Frostblades Gladiator, and I really wanted to see just how much damage you can squeeze out of Tectonic Slam right now. At the same time, I wanted to absolutely get the max out of endurance charges, and in this build you'll be running 10 endurance charges, guys. Fucking 10 endurance charges. This is like as thick as the fucking dick of Odin himself. It is just very powerful. The damage is really high. This is over 3.5 million damage to the white mobs, and Shaper damage and the boss damage is also incredibly good because we almost have 500 crit multiplier. I managed to squeeze it out. So you know, the build just has everything. It has the tankiness, it has the damage, it has the mobility. As you can see, you can also use Consecrated Path because this is also like another option that you can have on the build. You to become like extremely lazy. If you want to get super lazy, just use Consecrated Path. I can tell you that Consecrated Path deals just 1/3 of what the Tectonic Slam does, but as an absolutely brain dead mobility farming for a shit tier content, I think that Consecrated Path is also incredibly viable option. So let's get to the path of building, guys. Alright guys, this is path of building, and we'll guide you for all the most important things that we'll be doing here in order to achieve this stupid amount of damage that you can see here. This is level 93 skill tree, absolutely achievable, affordable. Nothing crazy, nothing stupid here. Very nice skill tree. So we start as a Marauder, like you see here. Grab life, grab life, grab life. Just grab up all the fat life nodes over here. I also recommend you to start getting endurance charges really quick. So try to get this endurance charge, and you can also as soon as you get Neblocks, try to spec more into mace damage over here. When you get the crit flask and some decent amount of damage, you can start specking into crit, which is disemboweling. Overall, specking into crit is a bit problematical because you know, you need a decent amount of crit chance, and the crit chance will be mostly shit on the left side of the tree without going to the twin turrets. If you're dual wielding on the right side of the tree, there's much better things for the duelist crit, but on the left side of the tree there's not much, and so we will be relying a lot on the diamond flask as well. But overall it's not great. This is still a nice amount of crit over there. So like I said, first try to get as much life as possible, get your endurance charges all around, and at about maps, when you reach maps, just start specking more into crit and mace damage. There are a few fat mace damage over here, which is bloodline instrument, which is a strong arm, one-handed melee weapons. There's also skull cracking and bone breaker. There's also incredibly strong galvanic hammer, which increases your elemental damage as well as accuracy and crit strike chance. All of this is very important. This is like the most optimal tree I managed to build for this specific skill, guys. One thing that I should mention, if you're like a new player, for example, you don't have a lot of experience, is since we are not running Resolute Technique, we actually need accuracy to successfully hit the targets, because unlike spells which always hit no matter what you do, attack skills require accuracy to actually hit the target and not miss. The higher accuracy you have, the higher hit chance you have, and about 90 hit chance is what you want to achieve. We're getting accuracy through a couple of things. First of all, there's minor accuracy nodes. Like for example, you can see what shit is giving you accuracy. This gives accuracy, this gives accuracy, this gives accuracy to you. But the most important thing is actually this, which is undeniable ascendancy notable passive, which gives 1000 accuracy. It also gives you accuracy equal to your strength, will be 400 plus strength, which 400 accuracy, which is a lot. And this literally solves all your accuracy problems easy peasy without any overinvestment in accuracy whatsoever, guys. This is very important. Another thing that I want to say is why I specifically like this setup that I created here is because it doesn't rely on scaling fire damage. This relies on scaling physical damage mostly, which is much easier to achieve and makes you much more flexible, because you can leech physical damage on the rings, for example. You don't need to leech off attack damage specifically. You will be leeching off physical damage, and physical damage allows you to double dip on all elemental damage using hatred, physics extra. And Neblocks effectively are just stat sticks. They have 40% of physical attack damage as extra fire damage, so the more fizz you have, the more fire you have. So instead of scaling fire, we'll be scaling physical here. At the same time, we will also be using all possible shit to boost our damage even further, which is Herald of Ash, Hatred, Herald of Purity, which is allows us to get like different types of damage. We'll be using cold, using fire. We can even potentially use lightning damage here. We're using chaos damage with the Tsiri Flask, Tsiri's Promise. So we'll be using all possible variations of Fizz as, you know, extra elemental damage this way. This makes the build really flexible, because we don't really want to invest ourselves into fire, into elemental damage. We will not be stretching over to this shit over here. This is absolutely pointless to go here. from this perspective. This is just, we'll be gathering nonsense amount of dexterity, which we don't need. Reaching this crit is of course pretty cool, but overall it's a bit absolutely non-interesting for us, because we'll be absolutely relying on the left side of the tree for all our needs. This attack speed berserking is also very important. I want to note about this. So as for the skill tree, this is mostly one-handed damage, life, endurance charges, regeneration. Regeneration is extremely important because Nebulux will give us 5 damage taken per second per endurance charge who've been hit recently, and this is a lot of fire damage. That's why we need to out-regen this, and with the amount of regeneration that we have on the tree and everything else, and the Calm's Way and the 10 endurance charges, like I said, they will greatly out-regen everything, even with maximum endurance charges and maximum amount of fire damage. So for the skills wise, this is basically it: Tectonic Slam, Multi-Strike, Conk Effect, Melee Fizz, Ruthless, Elemental Damage with attacks. There's also very nice to skill gem that can be used as Endurance Charge and Melee Stun, and I'll explain you why, guys, because even though we will be running Unyielding here, which gives us 25% chance to gain an Endurance Charge when we stun an enemy, this is just a quarter. With this thing, we actually have 100% chance to stun on, chance to gain an Endurance Charge on Melee Stun, but at the same time, it only works good when we have 10 endurance charges, which will not be the case in some situations. And the only situation where this gem really out damages, like Ruthless for example, is when we have 10 endurance charges, which, like I mentioned, will not always be there. That's why I decided I'm gonna drop this for now, and it kind of works. This combination is what is practically just works really nicely. So for the other skills, these are just our auras here: Pure Damage, Herald of Ash, Hatred, Herald of Purity, Enlighten. If you don't have level 4 Enlighten, which will not be the case at first, I recommend it to drop either Hatred or Herald of Purity. Herald of Ash should always be there. On one of the weapons we have our Cancel Watcher, who just buffs our melee damage. He also maims the enemies and tries to blind them. This is basically just utility and a buff for us. On the head we have Lip Slam, faster attacks, Fortify, and Blood Magic to get Fortify and do not spend our mana. On the right hand we have our utility, which is Blood Rage, Summon Ice Golem, and you can have something else like the Blind, Cooling Strike. Yeah, Cooling Strike will be here. So basically just this. Ice Golem is for the damage, Stone Golem for the regen. You can also Flame Golem, but I prefer to have the Stone Golem or the Ice Golem here. You can also use Lightning Golem for attack speed. This is just, all kind of things. You can use like anything, but I think that Ice Golem gives me the most DPS over here. I also included the setup for the Consecrated Path, which is like the shit tier farming setup. If you get bored lip slamming, you can try to run Consecrated Path, but I will explain you why I don't like it, because this is like twice less DPS than practically the Tectonic Slam. That's why, for the shit tier it actually works, and I've seen that people even manage to kill, Uber Elders, owls, and all the high-end stuff, but I really prefer Tectonic Slam for everything now, because it really synergizes well with the 10 endurance charges we have now. Another thing that I also wanted to mention is the new banner things, and you can also use War Banner to boost your damage even more, which I personally recommend to try. It's not really mandatory, but if you can fit it, for example, in the Ancestral Warchief, or on the left hand, on the off hand, on the where your Golems and Cooling Strike and Blood Rage, you can absolutely use this. It actually does a considerable amount of damage, like 4% more damage and 7% more DPS, which is actually a lot, but it's not mandatory by all means. I mean, there's enough damage to kill everything with this kind of numbers, but just as a reminder that you should try it and just do not disregard War Banner, of course. you can use it as well. For the Ascendancy, this is pretty straightforward. You know, Jag, first you get Unflinching, then try to get Unyielding, and then Undeniable. This is where you'll be like around level 70 something, 75. This is where you'll start mapping actively. This is where you need accuracy for your crits, for your hits. This is where Undeniable is important. For the Uberlap, this is practically endgame regeneration, reduction, which is unbreakable. You also regenerate a portion of your physical damage prevented. This is also adds a bit on top. This is make you tougher for the very endgame content. This is it. For the bandits, we will be getting Alira because we need this crit multiply and resist, because resists are kind of will be hard to get because we are running Calm's Roots, we are running Lore with Abyssus and Nebulox and 2 Calm's Way. So practically the only resistance what we can get will be the belts, amulet, and all kind of jewels over there. So resistance can be a problem with this build, and it's really needs some fine tuning. That's why I think Alira like fits perfectly for any crit build out there. For the items, like I said, we'll be using 2 Nebulox because they're absolutely amazing. They give a crazy amount of armor, toughness, reduces elemental damage taken per endurance charge. We're running 10 endurance charge, which is absolutely huge. Gives us chaos resistance as well as gives Phys test as extra fire damage. This is absolutely top tier weapons for this. This is just normal Nebulox, by the way, but if you can get the corrupted ones with the right colors, they can be very useful corruptions out there, like chance to get endurance charges, increase physical damage, attack speed. Any good corruption will really be useful, but it's up to you whether or not you can afford this. It can be real pricey. The helmet is Abyssus, which allows us to get crit multiply, but also increases physical damage taken. And this is literally, you know, the only thing that hurts us as much as elemental damage, because you know, running an Abyssus is only possible on the Juggernaut, honestly, because, you know, any other class will hardly can mitigate this stupid amount of increased physical damage taken, but for Juggernaut this is not as big of a deal, and this is the reason why we are running this on this Ascendancy. Try to get Tectonic Slam damage on this, but if you can't get this, try to get some curse, you know, like vulnerability. This can all be very useful. The body armor is Lore with. This is pretty mandatory, to be honest, to mitigate the fire damage on the Nebulox, because we'll be taking fire damage per second per endurance charge, and this is a lot of fire damage taken. Lore Weave increases your maximum resistances, and every percent of a max resistance greatly reduces the elemental damage taken. That's why this is incredibly strong, and I strongly recommend this to use as the chest. The gloves are absolutely normal, just spike gloves with attack speed, life resist, and physical damage to attacks. Nothing really crazy. Tomb Fist are indeed very strong options if you manage to balance your resist, guys. If you manage to balance your resist, use Tomb Fist. Tomb Fist, absolutely crazy. The boots are corrupted Calm's Roots with +1 to max endurance charges, and this is the only way how you can get 10 endurance charges now in the game. In the past, it was also possible to get corrupted belts with +1 endurance charge, but it was disabled. And now the only place where you can get endurance charges on the corruption are the boots. This is the only place where you can get it now. The amulet is a lot of options, but the top tier amulet will be physical damage to attacks and crit multiply. Anything else is just whatever you can find. There are also many great amulets, like as this, for example, which is basically Fizz as extra fire damage, you know, reached fire damage. There's also crazy things like this, which can give you frenzy power and endurance charges on kill, and if you click power charges here, your damage will be pretty absurd at this point. But you know, this is mostly the farming, like the farming, you know, DPS for the Shaper. This will not work, or for the Uber Elder hardly will ever work. So this kind of Amulet with Flat Fizz and Multiply will be the absolute top tier. The rings are 2 Kaom's away, and these are pretty pricey. These are Prophecy upgrading from the Kaoms. Cheap rings. Kaom's Way gives you +1 max endurance charges, as well as a 0.4 max life regenerated per second per endurance charge, which is 10 endurance charges gives you 8% max life regeneration per second, which is absolutely crazy, guys. This is how we out-regen most of the stuff. The build is practically just, Stygian wise, with life resist as well as increased elemental damage with attack skills. This is top tier build. Abyssal Jewels are different things. The most things that you will be looking for is fire damage to mace attacks, fizz damage to mace attacks, life. I also really like to have a chance to gain Unholy Might and Onslaught. If you don't have the Onslaught, boots, and we don't have them because we're using Kaom's roots, try to get Onslaught somewhere on the rings, because for mapping this will be really priceless. So Onslaught on kill, chance to gain Unholy Might on kill, any kind of life, and basically resist or fire damage, physical damage. Physical damage is prioritized here. The other jewels are mostly crit life jewels. These are pretty damn expensive, and this will be your like end game stretch goals, because these are like from 5 to a million exiles now. But if you really monitor trade, you can grab one of these quite cheap, maybe an exile or 2. Overall, these are like the end game stretch goals. You can easily mix them with the Abyssal Jewels and will be just the same amount of damage. The flasks are this, which is Lion's Roar, Atziri's Promise, and the Wise Oak, as well as the Diamond Flask. The only mandatory, I would say, is Lion's Roar, Diamond Flask, and Atziri's Promise. Wise Oak is really crazy for the damage and toughness, because we will be really nicely balancing our resist with this Wise Oak. But for the Uber Elder, if you feel like you need an extra, and if you can really balance your resist, like if your fire res is lower, because the only way to use Wise Oak nicely is to have your fire res over the everything else in order for it to penetrate. So if you cannot really align your resist for your fire to be more than everything else, you can use Taste of Hate, and this is actually a comparable amount of damage. As you can see, this is practically the same like amount of damage. So if you don't have fire res aligned, use Taste of Hate. If you have your fire res aligned, use Wise Oak, because it also gives us elemental resistance, which is incredibly strong and reduces damage taken for the cold and lightning res. This is it. For the Pandem powers, I strongly recommend to use Soul of Varakali, because it literally increases our recovery rate of life by 50%, which is incredibly strong, assuming how much regeneration we have. This is like mandatory in my opinion. Anything else is just not that important. Even Lunaris is not that important, because we have like 60,000 armor and stupid amount of endurance charges. So extra fizz mitigation is just absolutely worthless here. Regeneration is much more important. For the minor gods, I personally prefer Soul of Tukahama, because it gives us even more physical mitigations. But the Soul of Abirath is actually not bad, because it reduces our fire damage taken while moving, and this is good for the Nabolox synergy, because Nabolox hurt us with the fire damage taken. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for watching the video. Your likes and dislikes, especially, as they push me forward even more. If you want to see more content, please consider subscribing to the channel. I do daily uploads of role-playing content, being it builds, guides, let's play, stream highlights, and upcoming RPG games. Also, don't forget to follow my Twitch stream to catch me live in action. I do stream daily on working days. I'm a full-time YouTube content creator and a Twitch streamer too, so if you want to support me, you can do it either from Twitch or by PayPal directly from my website angryroleplayer.com. Join my Discord channel too, for a place to discuss RPG things offline, as well as follow my Twitter to be notified on any new content. If you want to get extra information like sneak peeks into upcoming videos, plans, different behind-the-scenes footage, you can also join the Unholy Army on Patreon as well, guys. Thank you very very much once again for watching and listening to all this. See you soon.